Welcome, everyone, to the Knockout Nonfiction webinar. We're really happy that you're here. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Katie O'Neill, the Client Services Marketing Coordinator here at Lerner, and we have some excellent panelists with us today who are excited to share their phenomenal series nonfiction offerings with you. The 5 publishers presenting today are part of Lerner Publisher Services, the distribution branch of Lerner Publishing Group. And here at Lerner, we are very proud to make their beautiful books available to you. The publishers you'll hear from today include Cheriton Children's Books, Full Tilt Press, Hungry Tomato, Mayo Clinic Press Kids, and Ruby Tuesday Books. A representative from each of these publishers will introduce themselves and tell you about their books in a moment. But first, a few housekeeping items. Our webinar is being recorded today, and we'll send out the link to the recording in a follow-up email. We'll also be sending a list of all the books that are discussed here today, so don't worry about frantically writing down titles as we go. We have auto-generated closed captioning enabled. If you would prefer not to see the closed captioning, click the button called Live Transcript to turn that off. If you have questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. We have a staff member keeping an eye on that, and we'll get to questions at the end of the webinar. If we don't get to your particular question, we'll pass it on to the intended panelist who can answer it via email afterwards. Please note that abuse of any kind will not be tolerated, and anyone violating this policy will be summarily banned from the webinar. I'm sure we don't have to worry about that here today, though. So, with that all said, let's jump into our panel discussion. The first panelist I'm pleased to introduce is Sarah Eason from Cheriton Children's Books. Cheriton is a UK-based publisher whose mission is simple: to create books that inspire a lifelong love of learning. Their books take curriculum-linked topics and add innovative themes and combine them with a color-rich design that keeps readers turning the pages. With a huge variety of topics, Cheriton's aim is to reach out to readers and help them discover how rewarding learning can be. I'll turn it over to you, Sarah.
Many thanks, Katie, and hi, everyone. So, first slide, please, Katie. I'm going to start with Food Chain Kings, one of our life science series that looks at some of the most impressive predators in the world, their food chains, and how they work. So we have 6 titles: bears, big cats, big snakes, crocodiles and alligators, sharks, and wolves. So each book is full of really amazing photographs that showcase the predators, and we also have some really fun jokes and quips, speech bubbles through each book to really get the reader engaged with the topic and wanting to find out more. So next slide, please, Katie. Thank you. So key feature spreads we've got in each book are case studies that look at one species, its food chain, and how it's so well adapted to hunt. But we explore how influences such as climate change may be affecting that food chain. All spreads have diagrams that clearly show the predator's food chain. So here we've got a case study from sharks featuring the mako shark, and a case study from big snakes featuring the anaconda. And these spreads are really important because they go into great detail about each predator's food chain and how it works. Next slide, please, Katie. So we finish each book with a snapshot of each killer king featured in the case studies, really showcasing their key stats, the standout physical features or behavioural adaptations that make them such an amazing apex predator. And then we hand over to the reader to really explore and decide for themselves who they believe is the greatest killer king of all. So really getting them to revisit what they've learned in the book and compare and contrast the predators that we've explored. So next slide, please, Katie. Next up is Deadly History, and as the series title suggests, it really explores all that was dark and deadly about living in ancient civilizations. So again, we've got 6 titles: the ancient Chinese, the ancient Egyptians, the Aztecs, the Maya, the Romans, and the Vikings. And we've gone for a really dark and deadly dramatic design look and feel for the series to really emphasize the content and the series approach and get readers engaged right from the start with the topic subject matter really wanting to delve into the past and find out who these people were and how they lived. Next slide, please, Katie. So one of the key features of this series are, of course, its primary sources. And these are explored in the text to explain what they can tell us about people who lived in the past. For example, in ancient Egyptians, we have part of a statue showing the head of the god Anubis, with a text that explains that the god was given the head of the jackal because the Egyptians believed this animal watched over them in the afterlife. And another key feature of this series are critical thinking questions. And these invite the reader to really dig deeper into ancient civilizations and why they did what they did. So here in Romans, we have a question that asks the readers to consider why the Romans thought it was acceptable to treat their slaves so badly. Really exploring what was the mindset in the context of the times and why did they think like that? So really getting the reader to explore the civilization and the time and why people behaved the way that they did. And readers can answer all these questions by drawing on information they've already read in the book. The next slide, please, Katie. So moving on to another science series, we have crime science, which delves into the world of forensics and crime science, which is always fascinating. So this series explores the cutting-edge science and technology used in crime investigation. And we've created a really high interest and atmospheric design look and feel to really get readers engaged with the topic and the text. And you'll see that the covers emulate a crime novel approach, which is reinforced in the book interiors throughout. So the 6 titles we've got are Cold Case Closed, Hunting a Hacker, which explores cybercrime, Profiling a Criminal, Spy Stalkers, Terror Alert, exploring terrorism, and Tracking a Killer, which explores homicides. So next slide, please, Katie. And another key feature of this series are focus spreads that take a really detailed and in-depth look at one particular aspect of the science used to solve crime, in this instance, DNA analysis. And each book ends with and concludes with a spread that explains to readers types of careers that are available in the field of crime science. And if they want to explore a career in crime science, how they could do that and what steps they would take. So on this final spread, we have a flow chart, and that explains the key steps to take from school to job if you want to carve out a career in crime science. So it's a really multifaceted series that looks at both the science of crime solving, but also offers some career information at the end of each book. Next slide, please, Katie. So Life on the Edge is a really dramatic and fascinating exploration of life on Earth and the battle for survival. It looks at extreme adaptations of organisms and how those adaptations help them stay alive. So we have 6 titles: Adapt or Die, Amazing Animal Anatomies, Creepy Killer Plants, Fearsome Food Chains, Hostile Habitats, and Lethal Life Cycles. So each book has got really amazing photographs that show life at its most extreme. So here you can see we've got a magnified image of a tapeworm showing the hooks on its head. So really dramatic, interesting photography to get readers engaged with the text and wanting to find out more about extreme life on Earth. Next slide, please, Katie. So throughout each book, we've got brutal biology features, which again really emphasize a particularly extreme aspect of the topic. And all titles conclude with a look at the purpose of the brutal biology that's examined in each book, which of course is survival. The next slide, please, Katie. So that concludes our series for fall 23, but I'd just like to run through some of our other already published series too. Energy Evolutions is a 6-book series that looks at how science is transforming how we create and use energy. So it's a really fascinating and current series for readers, which explores our energy crisis and showing the readers that we really have amazing science and technology tools to deal with this crisis and overcome it. Disaster Zone explores the science behind natural disasters and the worst natural disasters in history, disasters that really truly were epic. It Happens to Me examines key issues that face many young people today, from homelessness and eating disorders to gangs, drugs, alcohol addiction, and family breakups. And we've gone for a really novel approach in this series, using fictional diary entries that show the reader what it's like to be in this situation, how it feels, really personalising the topic and making it relevant. Hashtag Help shows students how they can develop amazing study skills that will see them both through school and life. And it features the skills that everyone needs, from how to write well, how to listen well, how to organise your time, and even how to manage your social media, key skills that all students need today. Mission Survival looks at some of the world's most endangered animals and how we can protect them through science and conservation. So this series looks at threats to animals, from climate change to hunting, and shows what scientists and conservationists around the world are doing to help these animals, and also shows readers what they can do too to help conserve endangered animals. Eco Action explores our planet and how it's been harmed through human actions, how organisations are taking positive steps to reverse that damage, and really what readers themselves can do to do the same. It's a really empowering series that explains to young people they can directly influence what's happening to the planet and protect it for the future. And STEM Career Choices takes readers on a journey through amazing STEM career options, exploring the reader's career personality type to help them choose the perfect STEM career for them. So we've got quite unique personality testing in these books that help young people explore who they are, what they like, what kind of career might suit them, so they can use that information to navigate a pathway to their perfect STEM career. Next slide, please, Katie. And then coming soon and available for spring or fall next year, we'll have Rise of the Robots, which explores how we're undergoing a robotic revolution that's transformed all aspects of our lives and includes debate features that examine both the positive and negative aspects of that revolution. Spooked is a really high interest and dramatic series. It looks at mysterious paranormal events in history and explores how we might be able to use science to explain them. Ultimate Sports dives into the world of extreme sports, and it's full of facts and stats and biographical features that showcase some of the world's most extreme sports people. And it's a really high interest, dramatic, engaging read for all readers. Then Artificial Intelligence, Friend or Foe, looks at how AI will be the second industrial revolution, and it uses a debate format to explore the question, will AI help us or hurt us? So really can we just think about, what is this technology? How's it going to help us? How's it going to change our world? And are those changes going to be good or bad? Rock Cycle Road Trip takes readers on a journey across our planet, and it's an amazing rock cycle. It explores the most exciting places on Earth to see the science of the rock cycle and its consequences in action. A Witness to War explores primary sources and how eyewitness accounts really shine a light on key wars in history. It invites readers to look in detail at each account and unpick it to discover what we can learn about the human experience of conflict from these really crucial windows to the past. And lastly, Human Body Handbook is a series that delves into the science of the amazing human body, exploring this ultimate machine and its many incredible systems. And that concludes our Cheriton Children's Book Showcase. Many thanks for listening, and I hope you like our books.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Renee Gillis presenting for Full Tilt Press. Full Tilt Press is a publisher of high-interest nonfiction that targets upper elementary and middle school students, but is written on a more accessible reading level. Full Tilt content piques the interest of the hardest-to-reach students with short chapters packed with fascinating facts and amazing photos that leap off the page. Information is presented with the goal of reaching, inspiring, and supporting striving readers. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you very much. All right, hi everyone. I am Renee Gillis from Book Buddy Media. We do a little bit of everything in the educational content world, from library trade to curriculum materials and digital media. And Full Tilt Press is our own imprint. And while we create all kinds of books and even graphic novels, We are somewhat specialized in high interest nonfiction for upper elementary and middle school readers, which is what I will be showing you today. Next slide, please. So first up is Strange Science. Here we look at popular sci-fi themes, ideas you see in books, movies, and video games, like time travel and cyborgs, and we dig into the actual science behind each concept. Is it real? What is the history here? Is there research going on in this area? The titles are Alternate Realities and Parallel Dimensions, Living in the Matrix, Robots, Cyborgs, and AI, and of course, Traveling Through Time and Space. So we have the interest level pegged at grades 5 through 8, but since these are all high-low titles, our reading level is a very accessible grade 3. These are 32 pages, which, as we have found, really keeps kids going without losing interest. And our aim here is to grab attention, get them reading, even those reluctant middle school boys. Next slide, please. So let's take a look inside a couple of these titles. Alternate Realities and Parallel Dimensions introduces readers to some physics, some theory, scientists like Erwin Schrödinger and Stephen Hawking, all while connecting to familiar pop culture characters in their worlds, like Stranger Things, Doctor Strange, and Harry Potter. The main content is rounded out by fun little strange facts in each chapter, plus a couple of infographics in each title. Next slide, please. The Robots, Cyborgs, and AI book is very interesting, as there is a lot of progress going on right now with robotics, bionics, and AI becoming more and more prevalent in our daily lives. And AI is a bit controversial. Each book in this series ends with a thoughtful discussion of the concepts. What are the downsides of this type of technology? What are the risks? Would you jump into a wormhole to travel through time and space? Each book then wraps with a quiz, activities that are good for solo or group work, and fully fleshed out back matter that was crafted with the classroom in mind. So that's a taste of strange fiction from fall 23. High interest STEM-based books that incorporate pop culture. Next slide, please. The next series is STEM to the Rescue. This again is middle school interest with an accessible grade 3 reading level, 32 pages. Excuse me. So these books look at topics that we see a lot of concern about, some doom and gloom in the news, nature, water, the internet, and it discusses how people are using each one to solve world problems and create positive change in the world. These titles have a strong social emotional learning benefit in that they help students counter fear of the future with positive outlook and action. The titles in this series are How the Internet Will Save the World, How Plants Will Save the World, How the Sun Will Save the World, and How Water Will Save the World. Next slide. So How Plants Will Save the World dives into the familiar everyday uses of plants, obviously food, but also the cotton and clothes, and then introduces readers to interesting recent developments such as biodegradable plastics that are sourced from plants. We have utensils made from avocado seeds, packaging made from seaweed. The book also covers some things that society is rediscovering, such as herbs and fruits for medicinal use. These books also have really interesting sidebars that support the main text, highlighting specific STEM-based organizations, people, and innovations related to the title. Next slide, please. So How the Sun Will Save the World gets into some really cool STEM aspects by covering solar energy and how this resource is being researched and used in transportation, the energy industry, even farming. This exposes kids to interesting careers that can have a positive impact. So all of these books end with complete back matter, quizzes, and some really outstanding activities like simple ways to capture solar energy and thinking about your water consumption in the home. So STEM to the Rescue is another great series of STEM-based nonfiction with this really beneficial tie-in to social emotional learning. Next slide, please. The last series I'd like to show you is Endangered: Lessons from the Past. This series is for a bit of a younger audience. We have an interest level of grades 3 to 5 with a reading level of grade 3. And I think kids are really going to be into these ones, which feature an endangered or vulnerable animal from today and an extinct counterpart from the past to see what we can learn from what led to the extinction. So these books combine natural history with modern conservation and also some awesome animal photos. The titles in this series are The Dodo and the Kiwi, The Megalodon and the Great White Shark, The Saber-toothed Tiger and the Siberian Tiger, and The Woolly Mammoth and the Asian Elephant. Next slide, please. So The Megalodon and the Great White Shark. These books go in depth to compare and contrast these two animals in a variety of ways. Looks at their sizes in an infographic format, talks about their habitats, their diets, and of course, their strength and ferocity, which is fun, but this title also gets into the science of evolution and adaptation, as well as climate change and current conservation efforts. Next slide, please. The saber-toothed tiger and the Siberian tiger is also comparing and contrasting in the text, supported by some really engaging visuals with informative captions, as well as in-depth sidebars. This title, for example, has a sidebar about dire wolves, which lived at the same time as the saber-toothed tiger, was its competitor, and also went extinct. So these books all end with a quiz, glossary, index, and some fun, accessible science experiment type activities. So Endangered: Lessons from the Past is an engaging series for young readers with this two-pronged educational approach to history and current events. Next slide, please. So that's it. We looked at Strange Science, STEM to the Rescue, and Endangered: Lessons from the Past, all high interest nonfiction titles that we've put a lot of thought into for young readers. We hope you'll check out our website, readfulltilt.com, or reach out to your Lerner rep for more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee. Next, we will hear from Holly Thornton of Hungry Tomato. Hungry Tomato offers high-interest, engaging nonfiction, bringing together eye-catching imagery with curricular topics in an easy-to-browse format. Hungry Tomato titles cleverly introduce scientific and historical concepts through short bursts of text supplemented by intriguing photos, cutaway and imaginative illustrations, hands-on experiments, and more. Go ahead, Holly.
Thanks so much, Katie. Hi, everyone. As Katie introduced, my name is Holly Thornton. I'm here from Hungry Tomato today to tell you about some of our really exciting books that we've got coming out right now. So first of all, a very quick little bit about us. So we're based in the UK, but we have some amazing books that really reach across to markets all over the world, particularly in the US as well. So what makes our books stand out? They're all design-led to keep them really engaging for the young readers that they target. So the majority of our books are illustrated, but we also incorporate real-life photographs as well to really bring the topics to life and make them really relatable as well for the readers. If we could pop to the next slide, please. Lovely. So there's just a few quick examples there for you of how we merge the use of illustrations and photographs together to make really well-rounded, interesting books. All of the language we use is age appropriate, and it's also carefully leveled by Lerner too, just to make sure that it's really hitting the target audience where it needs to. And the main thing that we focus on across all of our books is creating high interest topics, merging that with an engaging design to make sure that it's really grasping attention, inspiring readers to want to keep reading and keep learning, because that's the best thing that we can do for them. Lovely, next slide. So the first series that we'd like to look at today from our fall 2023 titles is Shark Safari. So this is a brilliant new 4-book series which explores spectacular shark species from all over the world. So this is a really key topic now that kids are interested in, but it's also really relevant with the current climate, looking at conservation efforts, endangered species. It's really important that we get this message across to kids, and this is a really fun way of introducing some of those issues and making them really interesting too. So of course, across these 4 books, they all focus on slightly different topics, but the key aim is to celebrate lots of different shark species, explore their clever adaptations, and get kids excited to learn more about them. So we've got all the famous species like the great white shark, the hammerhead, but we also introduce some lesser known species that are equally interesting, but just not shouted about quite so much. So if we could skip to the next slide. So we can see here how fantastic and eye-catching these illustrations are that we use within the book. And you can also see that we've got bite-sized quantities of text surrounding the images to really create a captivating design that will keep the pages turning. And also why these level of text is perfect is because it's just great for a wide range of abilities too. So they might be captivated by the images, but the short amount of text will keep them engaged as well with the content. We've also included with all of these books a short glossary at the end with simple definitions of the key terms, which keeps the readers interested and understanding of the text that they're reading too. As you can see there in the bottom left, we've used the real life photographs in some of the back matter pages to really bring the content alive and make it relevant for the children as well, to see how these illustrations really relate to the real life animals. So yeah, so all in all, it's a really nice, well-rounded series that we think is going to be really popular and that kids will want to read over and over again. Next slide. Lovely, thank you. So this next series that we're going to look at is the Inquisitive Kid's Guide to the Human Body. This is a really fun series. As you can see from the covers there, we've got bright and bold illustrations that really pop off the page. And we think this is going to be a great one for grabbing kids' attention right from the beginning when they see it on the shelf. So it's a new 4-book series that really encourages kids to get engaged with the science of human biology. Now this can be quite a complicated and sometimes boring topic for kids to learn about, and we've really tried to make this as fun as possible to get them excited to learn. So obviously biology is a key factor on the curriculum in schools across the world, but it's also something that children have a lot of questions about, and that's exactly what these books aim to target there, is really answering all of their crazy and embarrassing questions about their bodies and what's going on. Next slide. Lovely. So there's just a few snapshots of what you can expect inside the books. As you can see, again, those engaging illustrations and also the really fun cutaway diagrams. As I mentioned, it's quite a difficult topic sometimes for kids to visualize as they're learning about the science of the body, and we think that this style of illustration really helps get those points across in a fun way. You can also see we've got the small bite-sized text as well as a question and answer format. And again, we think this is a really fun way of keeping the text to a small quantity, but also answering those burning questions. Because the text has been carefully leveled to the age group, we know that it's perfectly suitable, but also coming back to that question and answer format, it makes the books really engaging for kids, either to read on their own or to be used as an educational tool, either with an educator in the classroom or with a parent or caregiver at home. It makes it a really engaging way of getting across what can be quite a hardcore subject. Next slide, please. Lovely. And lastly, from our fall 2023 titles, we've got the seasonal crafts. So this is another 4-book series of hands-on craft activities. As you can see, there's 1 book for every season of the year. So it is the perfect series really to keep kids entertained all year round. And the main aim with these is to encourage children to get creative, get hands-on and get away from those screens and enjoy new hobbies. So we think this is going to be a real corker. Next slide. Thank you. So just a little snapshot inside each of the books there. So as you can see, within each book, the crafts have clear step-by-step and that's in both text and photographs to help them really visualize as they're going through and make the steps as easy to follow as possible. Each book has 8 individual crafts, so there's plenty to choose from. And a really great thing with these is that all of the materials are easy to find. Many of them can be from recycled materials that you'd have in your home anyway, or they can be found on nature hunts. So it's a really great excuse to get out in nature, pick up little bits that you find around, and it really encourages children to get outside, but also get involved and find a respect for the world around them too, and then turn that into a fun activity. So all of the crafts are rated out of difficulty, so there's a nice mixture of easy, medium and hard, and that's presented at the beginning of each craft, so it's really easy for them to tell what they're taking on before they get it started. So as I say, a really fun series, gets kids away from screens and gets them feeling creative and enjoying new hobbies too. So that's our 3 titles or series from fall 2023. We think this is a really great selection of books, lots of different topics going on there to get people excited. Next slide. I'd just like to finish out by having a very quick look at what we've got coming in spring 2024. So even more books to look forward to. So first off there, we've got a brilliant series called Dogs. It's beautifully illustrated across the 4 books. It showcases 100 different breeds, from hard-working herding dogs to the fantastic dogs with wonderfully unique features. That's a must for all dog lovers out there, young and old. Then we've got the Codebreaker puzzle books for kids. So this is a fantastic 4-book series, full to the brim with puzzles and lots of logic things for them to look at. So each follows a different plot and they have to complete each puzzle to finish the end product. So it uses a mixture of maths, logic and reasoning. There's lots of handy hints and tips as well should they get stuck on the way. That's a fantastic activity series coming soon. And the last one there at the bottom, the Buzz books. So this is a brilliant new series. It's actually the first titles of a much larger series that we hope to continue making. They're high-low titles covering a range of topics from motocross, NASCAR, all the way to snakes and deadly creatures. So there's lots to look out for there. Perfect high-low titles, really key high-interest topics, but tailored to an audience that perhaps struggles with reading a little bit more. So yeah, lots to look forward to in our current range, the full 2023 titles we looked at, as well as coming in spring next year. We hope you enjoyed hearing about them, and thanks so much for listening.
Thanks so much, Holly. Moving on to our next presenter, Danny Valadares from Mayo Clinic Press Kids. Mayo Clinic Press Kids provides engaging health and wellness content for children from the most trusted name in health. Captivating stories, diverse voices, and expert authority empower young readers to care for themselves and their communities. Each book is created in partnership with Mayo Clinic physicians and experts. Take it away, Danny.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm presenting 4 series that have a really wide array of approaches to inspiring healthy kids and STEM learning, so I really hope you enjoy the list. Next slide. Yeah. So first off, we have Edge of Medicine. This series explores medical history as well as cutting-edge breakthroughs in various areas of medicine, including vaccines, medical artificial intelligence, medical robotics, transplants, genetics, and medical inventions. This is a photo-driven series perfect for kids who are interested in STEM and tech in relation to medicine. Each book spotlights a real Mayo Clinic physician or scientist with a Q&A about their work and breakthroughs in each of their areas. The books are structured around a timeline that highlights major milestones and advancements, sometimes dating over a century ago. While some of this content is Mayo Clinic's greatest advancements, we do highlight advancements from all around the world. We also have a really special focus on diversity in the physicians we highlight, as we're hoping to inspire kids to consider a career in medicine where they can see themselves in science. And next we have a very special series. This 6-book series was inspired by our very own Mayo Clinic Children's Center facility dog, Alicia. Facility dogs are specially trained therapy dogs skilled in giving comfort and joy to children in a medical setting. Through warm text and 2-color illustrations, these books tackle topics including broken bones, appendicitis, epilepsy, cuts and stitches, diabetes, and leukemia. This is all told from a puppy point of view, featuring our 3 dogs who have varying levels of experience. So kids are also getting to learn a little bit about what it's like to train and handle a facility dog. More importantly, because it's told through the puppy's point of view, readers will also learn an important SEL and health lessons along the way. Each book features nonfiction back matter that highlights the work of Mayo Clinic's Children's Center, the topic at hand, and as well as our very own therapy dog. Health Heroes, very much in the same vein, was inspired by real Mayo Clinic health heroes. This series highlights community helpers in this perennially popular educational topic area with the twist of essential workers, which of course we love at Mayo Clinic. We have used our very own custodians, paramedics, and flight nurses to help create these titles. Each book was created by interviewing real Mayo Clinic specialists who are then featured and illustrated in the back of each book with their very own Q&A highlighting their heroics. We also love that this series isn't just doctor and nurse, but highlighting some really unique careers that kids can have in medicine, like custodian, psychologist, and flight nurse. These are nonfiction, but you could call them informational fiction. Readers follow each health hero through a typical day to learn more about how they do their work and why they are so essential to the community. We really focused on diversity in this series as well, both in the fictional main characters, but also in the Mayo Clinic professionals that are highlighted in each book. We have a male nurse, for example, and a paramedic who wears a hijab. So it's a great series for kids to see themselves potentially in healthcare and also to see that there's more to healthcare than just doctors and nurses. And last up, we have mindful spaces. This is a delightful how-to series that I know I have personally used in my life on a day-to-day basis. Each book highlights projects and activities designed to encourage mindfulness and living in and accepting the current moment. Each book guides readers through activities like doing a body scan, making a worry jar, and playing feelings bingo. These are co-written by Rihanna Watts, a clinical psychologist who works with families and children to help them manage emotions. She practices a range of therapies and treatments, including CBT and mindfulness. One thing this series does that we really love is explain why each activity works, whether it's helping you focus or noticing your physical sensations, so that readers can start to learn that skills that can help them be mindful even outside of doing these activities. Another thing I love about this series is the great representation for disability in the arts. From limb differences to cochlear implants, everything under the sun is included. In addition to reviewing content with our pediatric psychologist, we also reviewed the disability representation with Mayo Clinic pediatric rehabilitation specialists. And this series includes mindfulness in me, mindfulness in my body, mindfulness in nature, and mindfulness in my emotions. So there's a little something for everyone. I think that's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. And last, but certainly not least, is Ruth Owen, co-founder and co-publisher of Ruby Tuesday Books. Ruby Tuesday Books has a mission to publish beautiful and informative books that kids will love to read. From ways to combat plastic pollution to exploding bugs, from asteroid hunting to adorable baby animals, their books bring nonfiction subjects to life. Vibrant colors and lively visuals will engage even the most reluctant readers. Go ahead, Ruth.
Thank you, Katie. So yes, as Katie just said, I'm Ruth Owen and we're Ruby Tuesday Books. We're a UK-based publisher, but we also have a small team in the US and we work together to create all our books. We've got quite a few series to show you. So if we go on to our first slide, please, Katie. And this is Nature's Neighbourhoods, all about ecosystems, which is one of our 4 series. And this is 4 new titles in a series of now 12 books. And each book takes a habitat, but the idea behind the book is that we go into that habitat and we meet the living things, the animals, the plants, the fungi, the bacteria, but we also find out about the non-living things, rocks, water, soil, and we discover how everything interconnects to form an ecosystem in that habitat. And there are threads running through the books. So we might meet an animal right at the beginning of the book, and it's a predator, it's hunting for one of its neighbours. Later on, that animal may appear and it's actually the prey this time being hunted by someone else. And later on in the book, we see it perhaps utilising a tree hole that one of the animals made so that it has somewhere to have its young. So the books show how everything in an ecosystem is connected, and those threads let kids see how important every living thing, every non-living thing is in an ecosystem, and that's why it's very difficult if one of those things doesn't survive and it affects the whole ecosystem. And each book ends with a food web that again shows those connections of who eats who. So, and if you have the next slide then, Katie, please. Okay, and now this is just a little bit of a preview of our new books that are coming in January 2024. So we'll be going through those in more detail. We've got 4 new series. So the first of those is Hide to Survive. And in this series, we're going to go into a habitat and find out all about the animals there and their camouflage. Now, I think camouflage is just one of the most incredible adaptations in the animal world. And in these books, we will have, each double page spread will have a big picture from the habitat, and somewhere in that picture there will be an animal hiding. And some of these are really, really hard to spot. So the reader will be trying to find the animal, and then the text will support that photo with information about the animal's life and whether it's using camouflage to hide from its own predators or to trick its own prey, or whether it's, in some cases, it can be both. And then at the end of each book, we repeat the photographs, tiny, and so that gives the reader the chance to actually, if they couldn't find the animal, we highlight where the animal is, so they can go back and see where it was. And these are a really good introduction to non-fiction reading. And I think kids really are fascinated by camouflage. I certainly am. I'm not a kid, but I'm fascinated by camouflage. And so our next series is How to Grow. And in this series, we've taken 4 popular foodstuffs, and the kids will get to go from seed to snack and actually grow the crop that's needed to produce that food. So in each book, it will be instructional text, step by step, very accessible, and each of the stages is supported with photographs, and they will plant a seed. They will grow and look after their plant. So along the way, there will be lots of good plant life cycle information, lots of science, and they will discover that plants need soil and water and sunshine and nutrients. And then once the plant is grown, they will harvest their crop, and they will turn that crop into a foodstuff with a recipe at the end of each book. And what else is there to say on this? Oh, I know something very important. The books are being created so that they could be done by a child if they don't have a garden or they don't have an actual outside patch of soil. Everything has been created so it can be that the plants can be grown in recycled containers, a bucket even. And so that's those 4. And then on to our next series. And that's The Seasons in Mr. Green's Garden. Again, 4-book series, 1 for each season. Just hiding away down to the right there under the names is Ruby Tuesday's first ever picture book, which was Mr. Green Grows a Garden. And in that original book, an older gentleman, Mr. Green, decided to turn an unwanted piece of waste ground in his city into a beautiful community garden. And he was helped by his young neighbour, Mo, and together they created a haven for plants, insects, birds, and all of their neighbours. And so this picture book has inspired our new non-fiction series, where Mr. Green and Mo will be the narrators and will take us season by season through everything that happens in a garden. So we'll see plant life cycles, we will see animal life cycles, and we will learn how plants and animals survive, how they adapt as the seasons change, how they raise their young at certain times of the year. And it includes lots of really sort of core science information, such as pollination and seed dispersal. And I think we'll go on to our final series, Katie, as there's quite a bit more to say about that. That's great, thank you. So this series, Money and You, is for slightly older children. And we've been hearing a lot about the need for children to get a good financial education. Many, many children have a limited understanding of money and how it works. And teenagers and older young people as well. And I think that comes about because we're all rather disconnected from money in some ways these days. When I was a little kid, my mum would have some money and we'd have little jars, and some of it would go for Christmas, some of it would go for our summer vacation, money for food. But these days, children grow up seeing parents paying with a debit card, or they see them using their phone. If we want to buy something online, it's simply a matter of 2 or 3 clicks and we've bought something without ever sort of thinking about or seeing the money. And so with this series, we want to give kids really lots of good information about how money works in the real world. And it will start out, each book will have information for the reader now. So if they have money from doing chores or from a part-time job, there will be information to teach them how to budget with that money. They might want to save that money, and it will give them a very good grounding with the money they have today, but it will then also move them on to be ready for the adult world. And again, in researching and thinking about this topic, I was listening to some interviews recently with young people, and there was a young guy, he was sort of mid-20s, and he'd finished his education, he'd moved into his first apartment with a friend, and he actually came home to his parents to announce this amazing fact that he'd found out, that you actually have to pay for water. And he got to his 20s before he realised that. So I think there's going to be a lot of kind of shocks coming in our paying the bills title for young kids. So kids hear words too: mortgage, pension, taxes, and all of that is explained in the book. And it's done in a very accessible way with a really nice chatty tone. And then there are also discussion topics throughout the book, open-ended questions that can get kids thinking about money and how we use money, and also lots and lots of activities. So, for example, in the bank accounts and borrowing money, one of the activities is to have a go at coming up with passwords and PIN numbers, and what could you use as security questions for when you open your first bank account. Another activity is, once kids have read about bank accounts and got a good understanding of them, designing your own bank account. What kind of bank account do you think a person of your age or a young teenager would like to have? What rewards might you offer, and why would somebody want to use that bank account? So lots of really good activities to reinforce the information. The books are being created by Astra Birch and Joanne Bell, who are both financial experts and have worked in mortgages and tax advisory capacities and financial advisors. And so between them, the 6 books cover everything that an older kid, a young person would need to know about the world of money. And I think that really covers everything. I went really fast because we had a lot to get through. So thank you very much, Katie, for organising all this. And thank you, everybody, for listening and letting us have a chance to tell you all about Ruby Tuesday's books.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. And thank you to all of our presenters. We heard about some really great series today. So I hope you enjoyed the presentations and found plenty of inspiration for filling your classrooms and shelves. We now have some time for our panelists to answer any questions that you've submitted. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Rachel to address our panelists.
Yes, thank you, everyone. To answer one of the questions that came in, we will be sending out a book list of all the titles that everyone spoke about. We'll be sending that out in an email. It'll take a little while to get the recording processed and all of that put together, but we'll send that out tomorrow or early next week. So you don't have to try to remember things that were shown on the screen. That email will also include a PD certificate in case you need that. And then jumping to some of the other questions we've received. One is, and I'll just call on all of our panelists if you want to turn your cameras on and get ready to answer. Do you have teaching guides or downloadable materials available for your books? And so I'll just go in the order that folks' cameras are showing up for me. So Ruth, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. For these new books, we don't at the present time, for the ones that we have presented today. So, but we are we're getting a lot of good feedback on our Money and You series, that activity packs and things could be helpful. So that may be something we'll do, and we'll let you know once they're ready. Thank you.
Great. And Renee?
At this time, no, we don't, but that is a fascinating idea that I will be passing along within our company.
Great. And Holly?
It's not something that we have at the moment, but it's certainly something that we could look into in the future. I think it might lend itself well to some of the topics that we cover. So I'll definitely make a note of it and pass it on.
Great. And Danny?
We do have teaching guides for our Helping Paws and Edge of Medicine books, but we will be looking into future series as well.
Great. And Sarah?
Yes, well, we currently have teachers' guides for our first season of books. So we've got them for Energy Evolutions, Disaster Zone, #help, and It Happened to Me. And very timely, we are currently working right now on teachers' notes for all remaining series. So they'll be going up within the next few weeks, we hope. So there should be something for absolutely every series that we've got published and that we will be publishing. So they'll all be available soon.
Wonderful. And I'll say, if you're looking on the lernerbooks.com website, on all of our book and series pages, if there is downloadable material associated, you can find that right there and download it from lernerbooks.com, as well as the individual publisher websites. It looks like we have time for one more. So there was a question about, do the books, can the books be used with older students who are middle or high school students, depending on the age range of the book, identified as English language learners or multilingual learners? And we'll just reverse the order this time. So Sarah, I'll start with you.
Yes, absolutely. All of our books tend to be towards the low end of the interest range, or possibly just below it. And we've really created every page to be very accessible to struggling readers. So quite often you'll see in our books, we've got bite-sized chunks of text and really identifiable feature boxes. So there's something there for readers who struggle, who might just be signposted to those key features on each spread. They can dip in, dip out of the books. So definitely we've designed them to be accessible for readers.
Thank you. And Danny?
Yes, I would certainly agree for our series as well. We've been very careful about leveling our vocabulary, particularly with series like Edge of Medicine that are talking about really high level topics, to make sure that they're accessible to lower reading levels.
Thank you. Holly?
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly something that would be possible with our books. Again, they're all very accessible with low quantity of text alongside really clear illustrations and photographs. So certainly really accessible for struggling and reluctant readers too.
Wonderful. And Renee?
And same with our products, we skew towards a lower reading level, again, supported by the visuals. The glossaries that we include are very in-depth and have pronunciation guides and things like that. And so they really are geared towards, people who are reading at the lower end of the reading level scales, English language learners, struggling readers, all of that.
Thank you. And Ruth?
Yes, I would say the series we presented today, they would all be accessible to struggling readers. I would say in terms of if the readers are slightly older, our Money and You series I think would be great, because that's a really key skill that young people need to have to understand money. And those books have been produced with a very accessible, chatty tone, and a lot of the information is broken down into nice little manageable pieces. So I think that would work well in that way. So yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, I think with 3 minutes left, I won't try to get through another question. So Katie, I'll hand it back over to you to wrap up.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you for attending the webinar. As Rachel said, you can expect to receive an email in the near future containing the recording of this webinar, complete book list, the full slide deck, links to further resources, and PD certificate. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Katie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.